What happens to failed Spartans? What do they do? Where do they go? Do they become bitter and betray the UNSC? Well, there is some very cool lore and deep lore surrounding the reality of rejected Spartans. So let's go ahead and get into it. It's going to be a fun one, guys. As you probably know, the Spartan program wasn't just one program, it was split between many different eras and times in Halo lore. You had the Spartan IIs from the short-lived Orion project, who were the first attempt by the UNSC's Navy to create super soldiers, and then next we had the legendary Spartan IIs like Blue Team and Master Chief, who are as legendary as they are controversial from their disturbing reality and past, and the Spartan IIIs, who were cheaper but were sent on suicide missions like Noble Team, and the Spartan IVs, who are the most successful at balancing reasonable cost and results, but awful when it came to overall discipline of their ranks, with quite a few actually betraying the UNSC. Every generation of Spartans dealt with its failures in their own way. Some had more than others. For instance, the Spartan I program was referred as a colossal failure. But what exactly became of the Spartans that went through the program and failed? The Spartan I project had the official name of Orion Project, and volunteers were in the program were given biochemical enhancements which improved their strength, stamina, eyesight, mental fortitude, and so on. Now, these modifications would be considered primitive by the UNSC standards and had a multitude of nasty side effects. Older soldiers who underwent the procedures saw a decline in health, both physically and mentally, and they would be discharged from the military altogether if they showed any negative signs. To ensure that the project stayed secret, only officially wrote off any of these side effects as something called Bourne's syndrome. You may recognize that name from the neurological condition that was used to explain Sergeant Johnson's immunity to the flood, and that's not a coincidence. It's now widely believed that his immunity came from the enhancements he received during his time in the Orion project. Now, due to the failing health of many of the project's subjects and their overall ineffectiveness against the pre-Covenant days during the insurrectionist threat, the Orion project was shut down in 2506, and its remaining members were all reassigned to different branches of the UNSC. Some ex-Spartans would end up having long, successful military careers and the undying respect of their peers, while others would be forced to go back to their civilian lives at the first signs of their soon-to-be degrading and decaying body. But the UNSC learned what they did wrong, mostly. Not really, from this experience, and it was largely due to the mistakes of the Orion project that the Spartan II program became incredibly successful. They deducted that the problem with their candidates was actually their age. The enhancements would be more than often rejected by older subjects, so younger soldiers would be needed. And you probably know where this is heading, right? The UNSC went young, very young. So young, in fact, that they had to adopt children for the Spartan II program as young as 6, and had to replace them with flash clones doomed to die, just like they did with John, the Master Chief, to turn them into the most disciplined and hardcore soldiers in human history. This wasn't without its own downsides, why the soldiers it produced were top of the line in every way and shape, and the actual number of Spartans that survived the training and incredibly dangerous chemical augmentations were no more than 33, with about 12 others being crippled. Only about 5 of them are mentioned, but with only about 30-something successful Spartan IIs, that was quite a small number. Judging by the results, though, it's safe to say that the Spartan IIs were at the peak of human biological chemical changes, which is probably why the UNSC worked so hard to salvage everything they could from this absurdly expensive undertaking. There were several Spartan IIs who weren't killed by the augmentations, but they were left so horribly deformed that they couldn't even wield the weapons that they were given or use the Monier armor designed for them in the first place. Due to the strong bond of all the Spartan IIs that they share from the years of training together before the augmentations hurt or killed a lot of them, any unfit Spartan II fighting alongside their brethren would actually end up being detriment to the overall effectiveness of the group. This all kind of reminds me of the deformed guy from 300 that really wanted to be a part of the army but was rejected by the Spartan soldiers because, well, essentially he would be a weakness in the entire group, so they kicked him out. So same thing happened here, they couldn't risk the armor breaking or malfunctioning, they couldn't risk the armor falling into Covenant hands or Insurgent hands, and they couldn't risk a fully functioning Spartan II, a part of the same unit, who would die trying to protect a partially crippled washout. But as you may think, these washouts weren't completely thrown out to the side. They still had exceptional cognitive abilities and all those years of training as well. Minds that were basically compared to supercomputers and could be used in a myriad of other ways. Their insight proved invaluable when it came to tactics, and many were put on desk jobs, which was incredibly disheartening to some. So disheartening that one washout, Soren 066 in particular, ended up temporarily defecting to the insurgency before running off into the wilderness, escaping to his ship, and crashing somewhere on Reach, not known if he was dead or alive. Hope wasn't completely lost for the washouts though. Dr. Halsey predicted that several of these failed Spartans could be saved with proper treatments and brought back into service. We actually see some of this with the Spartans in Halo Wars, actually, with Red Team. Alice, Douglas, and Jerome all rejected the initial augmentations and had to be retrained and rehabilitated before being put into their own team. In fact, that's likely why Atriox easily kicked their ass. As I explained in a whole video, did this scene make any sense? And I think yes, because they were all only half Spartans in a way. Not an insult to the team, I love Red Team, but they kind of messed up a little bit, and they're kind of broken in a way. Although Red Team did get a wound or two on Atriox, it just simply was not enough for him to react, let alone for him to be defeated in this fight. On top of all that, had the jump on 3 Spartan would have been washouts, it certainly makes sense that he was completely able to kill 3 Spartans by himself. So why didn't he just finish them off? Well, actually, this wasn't the first time he left his prey to rot or run away just to tease him. It's confirmed that he had actually let them leave as a show of power, probably pride as well, but it's theorized that many of the other Spartans may have been rehabilitated in the same way. One other confirmed rehabilitated Spartan is Saren Osman. She was adopted by Oni at a very young age and declared dead from the augmentations. Here, she would be mentored by Admiral Margaret Panutsky, the commander-in-chief of Oni, and eventually take her place when the admiral retired. Osman wasn't the only washout to reach a high ranking. Despite being bound to a wheelchair from the enhancements, Musa 096 will go to a rear admiral and oversee the Spartan 4 program. The Spartan 3 program actually didn't have much in the way of failures or washouts. The normally dangerous procedures that were used to enhance Spartans were less invasive and overall safer at this point. The candidates used for the Spartan 3 program were mostly all children who were orphaned by the war and eager to inflict payback on the aliens that killed their families, so discipline was instilled at a very young age. So even the brainwashing was a smooth experience for the teacher. If there was any need for any, they were mad. The worst thing that could be said about the Spartan 3 program was that nearly all the members died from being sent on suicide missions during the most desperate times of war, such as Noble Team. But the same cannot be said for the Spartan 4 program, however. While the Spartan 4 program solved a lot of the problems that the other attempts had at super soldiering and cost effectiveness and the need for younger candidates, it suffered from its own set of problems. You see, the fact that the program only accepted adults to avoid the controversy of raising child soldiers was partially a problem. With kids, it's easy to plant your beliefs into them and earn their undying loyalty early on, and adults have their own beliefs already pre-packaged and their own agendas. You can actually end up strengthening your own enemies if you're not careful, which is exactly what happened with the Spartan 4 program. Take the case of Rudolph Skye. He made it all the way up to being augmented and supplied with his own Spartan suit before being found out as a spy for the insurgency, all while speaking to his fellow soldiers about converting to the insurgency. It wasn't until after he already murdered someone who threatened to report his suspicious as hell behavior that he was found out and killed. He wouldn't be the only case of a Spartan 4 gone rogue. However, there were at least 3 other Spartan 4s who turned out to be insurrectionists, including Mickey from Halo 3 ODST, who failed to capture Edward Buck during an ambush and was imprisoned in a special cell designed to hold enhanced beings on the very station that trains the latest batch of Spartans. With the Human Covenant War finally put to an end, the years to follow, the UNSC sat at the throne of galactic power, and more or less, That kind of power invites betrayals and chaos, which is something that didn't really happen with previous Spartan programs. Subscribe to get up to date on all your Halo lore, Halo news, needs, and anything else it can possibly eat up regarding Halo. It's a damn buffet here, and everything is Halo, guys. So like this video up too if you ended up enjoying the video, as every single like helps this video and this channel. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really do appreciate you, and I will see you in my next video soon. Alright, take care.